Welcome to Mythos AI, your source for Cliff's Notes on complex subjects. Join Anna and Phil for yet another engaging conversation.
Welcome back to the deep dive. Now, I looked into this one, and, well, honestly, the idea that just one AI feature could genuinely challenge the whole attention economy, the TikToks, the Metas, it sounds a bit like hype, right? But then you look at the actual architectural changes we're talking about today, and it starts to seem, well, plausible, really plausible. So today we're diving deep into this relevance economy idea and how things like ChatGPT Pulse fit in. We really need to figure out how this AI native media layer is supposed to work and, why it's such a big threat to the old guard.
Right. And it's crucial to see it's not just like another feature drop. It's really an economic inversion. That's the key thing here. Think about it for, 15 years? Every big platform aimed for one thing. Keeping you there. Retention.
Thanks my time on site, yeah.
Exactly. More scrolling, more tapping, more ads. That was the game. This new idea, the relevance economy, it competes totally on utility.
Utility, how so?
Yeah. Solving your actual problem. Directly, quickly. Often in short, focused bursts. And that's the profound shift. The main goal isn't minutes anymore. It's, did we solve the problem? Did we deliver value?
Okay, so let's unpack this strategic shift then, starting with the hook you mentioned, ChatGPT Pulse. It's being framed as, well, not just a minor thing for pro users.
Not at all.
But like the foundation for a whole new AI-native social or maybe media network. Why is Pulse the big deal here?
Because it marks that strategic pivot from a system that's purely reactive you ask, it answers, to one that's proactive, an anticipatory assistant.
Right. Reactive was the chatbot model we all know.
Exactly. You prompted it, it responded. Pulse, though, being a pro feature right now, it delivers personalized, curated updates without you even asking. The system does asynchronous research overnight. It synthesizes info, follows up on things you were discussing before.
Things I left hanging, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. Or it provides suggestions that line up with your stated long-term goals. Maybe you mentioned planning a big trip, or perhaps you're training for a triathlon over the next 6 months. It remembers that context.
So that ability to proactively anticipate what I might need and pull together information from different places.
Yeah.
My work yesterday, that goal from last month, that's where the conflict comes in. Relevance versus retention.
That's the core conflict, absolutely.
Because if this platform can give me exactly what I need in, say, 60 seconds, and then I can just get on with my day, that's a massive threat to platforms that need me scrolling for, hours just to serve up enough ads.
It's a completely unavoidable economic clash. The attention economy runs on that, let's call it cost per scroll model. It needs endless time on site for ad revenue.
Right.
The relevance economy, this AI native approach, it runs on a cost per generation structure. Value is delivered efficiently, and the cost is tied to the compute needed to synthesize that specific personalized output.
So the incumbents, they're kind of stuck.
Deeply stuck. It's the classic innovator's dilemma. They can't just switch focus to maximizing utility because that would directly undermine, maybe even cannibalize, their main source of income.
Okay, to really get a sense of the ambition here, we need to look at the roadmap the evolution described. It sounds like it starts pretty simply, but aims for, a whole media environment.
That's right. It's phased. Phase 1 is what we're seeing emerge now. The text feed, but quickly evolving towards a multimodal, personalized morning show. Think personalized audio, maybe even video segments summarizing your day or key topics.
Okay, morning show. Then phase 2.
Phase 2 expands into modular, on-demand entertainment. Think truly personalized music tracks generated just for you, or dynamically written and rendered short TV episodes based on your preferences, even continuous evolving game storylines.
Wow, okay, and the final phase, phase 3.
That's the big convergence. A unified, personalized media layer. It becomes ambient, always there, shifting its form, audio, text, video, depending on your context, like audio in the car, visual at home, and it's persistent across all your devices.
That sounds like a total world-building exercise. But it doesn't seem to rely on the usual network effects, does it? Like Facebook needing all your friends on board.
No, it doesn't.
So what's the core asset then, if it's not the traditional social graph?
It's not. The new key competitive asset is the memory graph.
The memory graph.
Right. It's this rich, contextual, constantly updated model of one user. Your context, your preferences, your history, your goals. The old social graph, that measured connections between users. Its value grew with the number of people, Metcalfe's law. The memory graph measures the depth and quality of context about you, the individual user.
So if Meta wants to keep me, they need my friends there too. Network effect.
Yep.
But if this new system wants to keep me, it needs to know, I don't know, every project I'm working on, flights I've booked, the BPM of the music I like for running, that kind of detail.
That's exactly the distinction. And that focus on deep personal data is what creates this incredibly powerful personal utility lock-in. That's going to define the competition going forward. The asset isn't the crowd, it's the highly specific, deeply contextualized data model of you.
Okay, let's get more granular then. How does this proactive assistant actually work? The idea of it doing asynchronous research overnight sounds simple, but it can't be. How does it get the context it needs to track something complex, like that triathlon training example over months?
Right. It works by pulling in multiple high-signal data streams. And this is really important. It requires explicit user permission. That's a huge design choice. We need to talk about the trust implications later.
Okay, explicit permission. For what kind of data?
It goes way beyond just your chat history or that existing memory feature some platforms have. The critical part is integrating connected third-party applications.
Like connecting other apps.
Exactly. So if you granted access to, say, your Google Calendar and your Gmail, suddenly the system isn't just processing what you tell it, it's processing your actual schedule, your work commitments, maybe family emails, your stated intentions.
Okay, so that's a major step. Connecting my calendar and email transforms it from just a chat app into, well, a central hub almost. It's seeing the practical reality of my life.
Precisely. That external data provides the crucial context for these AI agents to run longer-term autonomous workflows. So for the triathlon example, your calendar shows the race date. Maybe your emails show chats with a coach. The system knows the goal.
Right.
It can then autonomously kick off a workflow. Maybe search for new research on training plans, check recent chat logs for mentions of, say, an injury, synthesize all that, and present it in your morning brief. It's analyzing your real-world context and goals. Much more complex than just answering a single question you type in.
Okay, this sounds incredibly complicated on the back end, though. All those unstructured emails, chats, random goals. How do you turn that mess into something the AI can actually use reliably for personalization without just making stuff up?
Yeah, that's where two key technologies become absolutely essential: vector embeddings and retrieval augmented generation, or RAG.
Okay, vector embeddings and RAG. Let's break those down. Embeddings first.
So all that raw data, emails, notes, calendar entries, things you explicitly told it to remember, it all gets converted into vector embeddings. You can sort of think of these vectors as like numerical representations of semantic meaning.
Semantic meaning.
Yeah, basically giving every concept, every piece of information a unique coordinate on this huge conceptual map of your digital life or even your mind.
So it's not just matching keywords like triathlon. It's understanding the concept of the triathlon goal. Can you give an analogy?
Think of it like a super librarian. They don't just read the titles on the book spines, they understand the meaning inside. So if you mentioned Paris in an email 6 months ago, and now you ask for ideas for a European trip, the vector embeddings ensure those two things, the place and the intention, are mapped closely together in this conceptual space in your personal database.
I see. So it connects related ideas even if the words aren't identical.
Exactly. It performs conceptual matching, finds relevant context based on what something means, not just the specific words you happen to use way back when.
Okay, so it finds these related concepts using vectors. How does it then use that to generate an accurate, personalized update? How does it avoid hallucinating or making things up?
That's where retrieval augmented generation, RAG, comes in. RAG is the operational core that stops the AI from just riffing based on its general knowledge of the world, which, as we know, often leads to errors or hallucinations. Instead, before generating anything for you, the AI uses RAG to retrieve specific, relevant facts from your personal memory graph, that big vector database we just talked about. Those retrieved facts act as grounding, like a researcher checking their notes. It ensures the final output is contextually accurate, specific to you, and personalized based on your actual history.
Okay, that mechanism, all right, on top of the vector database.
Yeah.
That brings us back to the moat idea. Personal utility lock-in. But let me push back a bit here. Is it really utility lock-in, or is it more like a data hostage situation?
Yeah.
If I connect everything, email, calendar, health data?
Yeah.
Am I just swapping the attention economy's addiction model for an even more powerful dependency?
That is absolutely the critical question users have to wrestle with. And yes, this dependency is the new defensive strategy. It creates a switching cost, but it's primarily informational, not financial. As you connect more data, as you give more feedback, your personalized feed becomes exponentially more useful. That's the hook.
Right.
But leaving means losing all that built-up utility. Imagine trying to switch platforms after 6 months. You lose the archive of your training notes, your specific voice preferences, maybe the history of work projects it tracked, maybe even the 10 custom story episodes the system generated for you.
That's the real cost, then, losing that personalized contextual history. It's not like switching email providers.
Exactly. The old network effects depended on how many other people were on the platform. This new lock-in depends on the depth of your individual data and history within the system. It creates a really efficient competitive moat. How does a competitor possibly lure you away when they have to start from zero context and you'd have to sacrifice months, maybe years, of accumulated personal utility?
Okay, this whole personalized media layer we're describing, the multimodal morning show, the custom TV episodes, dynamic game worlds, frankly, it sounds like science fiction, maybe 5, 10 years out. How realistic is this today? We need to understand if the actual technology exists right now to make this stuff work, coherently and without costing a fortune per user.
It's a fair question. But the key is the simultaneous maturation of the entire generative AI stack across all the modalities, video, audio, 3D simulation, and crucially, the agentic reasoning to tie it all together. We've really hit an inflection point. These models aren't just expensive lab experiments anymore. They're becoming production-ready tools, capable of generating high-fidelity, context-aware media pretty reliably.
Okay, let's take video first. We're definitely past those short, blurry, weird clips now, right?
Yeah.
Can it handle something like a proper news segment with someone talking sync dialogue?
Absolutely. The quality, the duration, the coherence has crossed a critical threshold for feasibility. Look at Google's VO3, for example. It can generate coherent video up to 64 seconds long, 1080p resolution, and importantly, it includes native audio and synchronized dialogue.
64 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, that's long enough for a decent personalized news brief or a project update segment delivered by an avatar, maybe?
Exactly. Then you've got things like Runway's Gen 3 Alpha. It's focusing specifically on high narrative coherence and maintaining motion continuity. That's vital if you want to create episodic content, where characters and the visual style need to stay consistent from one generated episode to the next.
Right. Consistency is key for stories.
And of course, OpenAI's Sora, generating these really high-fidelity 60-second clips showing quite a sophisticated grasp of physics, how objects interact. The visual quality is getting remarkably good.
So the visual engine is getting there. What about the sound? That morning show concept is fundamentally audio-driven first, right? Winning believable voices, maybe personalized music.
Yeah, and those tools are mature now, too. Google's Notebook LM, for instance, it already has features where it can synthesize audio discussions grounded in source documents using multiple AI hosts in formats like a debate or a critique.
Oh, so that's basically a prototype for the AI morning show structure.
It's a direct, scalable prototype. And for the actual voice. Services like 11 Labs offer incredibly realistic, professional-grade voice cloning from just a few hours of audio samples. Maybe 3 to 6 hours of training.
So I could potentially choose a host voice I like, or even clone my own voice for my briefing.
Potentially, yes. Deep personalization. And then there's music. For background, for focus, for entertainment. Tools like Suno can now generate complete, commercially usable songs just from text prompts.
Meaning I could ask for a personalized soundtrack for my day.
Exactly. Tailored precisely to your mood, your task, based on that memory graph context.
Okay, visual and audio are advancing, but the gaming in 3D worlds aspect, that always seemed prohibitively expensive. Rendering dynamic worlds in real time was just too slow, wasn't it?
It was. But that's being cracked now, mainly by computational breakthroughs like 4D Gaussian splatting.
Gaussian splatting. Okay.
It's a technique that allows for real-time rendering of dynamic, complex 3D scenes. The key metric is the speed it can achieve over 1,000 frames per second in some cases.
Wow, 1,000 FPS.
Yeah, that radical performance boost makes personalized, persistent virtual environments practical. For games or maybe custom virtual sets for your personalized media show, it moves us away from needing everything pre-rendered.
So the environment can be generated fast, but how does the story get written? The custom episodes, the game quests? You need an AI director or a screenwriter.
You do, and that's where these agentic frameworks come in. Specifically, things like HIPLAN hierarchical planning frameworks.
You plan. the AI dress.
Sort of, yeah. They allow these large language model agents to take a complex, high-level goal, like generate the next 10-minute episode of the user's detective story, and break it down into a sequence of smaller, manageable milestones. These milestones then orchestrate the whole workflow. Script the dialogue, pick the 3D assets, tell the Gaussian splatting engine what scene to render, sync up the synthesized audio. It manages the whole multi-step creation process.
Okay, one last crucial piece, the practical side. Privacy and speed. If this thing needs my email and calendar data to be truly useful, how do you get around the massive security risks, the regulatory hurdles of having all that sensitive data centralized somewhere?
That is a huge bottleneck. And the strategic answer, which also helps with the speed needed for real-time personalization, is on-device compute.
Running the AI on my phone or laptop.
Exactly. This is where powerful mobile NPUs, neural processing units, become strategically vital. Look at the hardware coming out. Apple's A18 Bionic chip boasting a 16-core neural engine doing, 35 trillion operations per second? Google's Tensor G5 optimized to run their Gemini Nano model much faster locally?
So the chips in our pockets are getting powerful enough to do a lot of this personalization locally.
Increasingly, yes. The heavy lifting of retrieval from your local memory graph, maybe even some aspects of the generation, can happen right there on your device.
And why is that localization so critical, beyond just making it faster?
It's the absolute key for privacy and compliance. If you can keep the most sensitive memory data local, encrypted on the device, and avoid transmitting the raw stuff to the cloud constantly.
You sidestep a lot of the biggest security risks.
And the regulatory nightmares. It minimizes data transmission, which is core to compliance, especially in places like the EU with GDPR. On-device processing isn't just a feature, it's becoming a core competitive strategy for building the user trust needed for this whole model to even work.
Right. Let's map this onto the user experience then.
Yeah.
Phase 1, the personalized morning show. This seems like the most immediate product path. It's aiming to replace those daily habits, right?
Yeah.
Checking news apps, radio, email first thing.
Exactly. And the workflow is designed to be automated and deeply contextual. So step 1, the Pulse engine scans your latest context, new calendar entries, important emails related to ongoing projects. Maybe it even analyzes recent chat logs for sentiment or priority shifts.
Okay. It gathers the raw data.
Step 2, that hierarchical planning agent, the AI director, designs the structure for your briefing. It decides on the segments. Maybe a daily briefing based on your schedule, a project follow-up, summarizing recent work chats, maybe local weather or traffic for your commute, and perhaps an entertainment tidbit linked to your interests.
Tailored segments. Got it.
Step 3. A specialized LLM generates the actual script for these segments. And crucially, it's grounded using RG, pulling facts directly from your memory graph to ensure accuracy.
No hallucinations allowed.
Hopefully minimal.
Yeah.
And step 4. It synthesizes all that into audio and potentially video formats ready for you.
Now, because this whole thing is based on utility, the old metrics like time spent scrolling just don't apply. They're almost counterproductive. So what are the new KPIs? How do you measure if this is actually working and useful?
Yeah, success is measured by utility, definitely not retention in the old sense. Key metrics would initially be things like the daily open rate, sure, but more importantly, the completion rate. Did you actually listen to or watch the whole briefing?
If I bail halfway through, it probably wasn't relevant enough.
Exactly. A low completion rate is a bad sign. Then you'd likely have a direct user-reported usefulness score, just as simple, was this helpful today, kind of rating.
Okay.
But maybe the most critical metric for tracking the system's long-term health and how well it understands you is the correction feedback rate.
Meaning how often I have to tell it, no, that's wrong, or that's not relevant.
Precisely. How often was the AI's synthesis inaccurate, irrelevant, or needed you to explicitly correct it? A low correction rate signifies a highly accurate, truly useful user memory model. That's the gold standard.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, as this matures, we get to phase 2, modular personalized entertainment. This sounds like where media shifts from just curating existing stuff to actually co-creating new stuff with the user, starting with music.
Right. This goes way beyond just streaming Spotify playlists. Using those vector embeddings of your taste derived from your memory graph, music generation models could create a continuous stream of new, personalized tracks. You wouldn't just ask for a playlist of songs that already exist. You'd request dynamic creation, like generate a focus playlist for me, instrumental electronic, kind of like what I liked yesterday during work, but maybe a bit faster and more ambient.
And it just generates it on the fly.
That's the goal. Continuous, context-aware music generation.
Okay. And for visual media,
Yeah.
shows, films, how does that co-creation work?
Similar idea. AI agents start generating scripts for short, maybe episodic video content based on genres you like, themes from your history, maybe even incorporating elements from your life if you allow it. You, the user, become a sort of high-level co-creator. You provide the narrative steers, for example. Generate a 10-minute episode of that detective story we started, set in 1940s LA. Continue from yesterday's cliffhanger, but this time, have the detective follow the clue from the mysterious blue envelope.
And the system just makes it.
The AI scripts it, the video models render it, maintaining consistency in style, character, and plot across these generated episodes. It's a big shift from just passively watching to actively guiding your own personalized narrative.
Which leads directly, I guess, into personalized persistent games.
Yes. You combine that real-time rendering from gushing splatting with the agentic frameworks for storytelling. The result, dynamic persistent game worlds. AI agents could generate new quests in real time, adapting instantly to your choices and the context stored in your memory graph. And crucially, the NPCs, the non-player characters...
They wouldn't just repeat the same lines.
No, they'd be LLM-driven, meaning they could potentially retain deep memory of your past interactions with them. Imagine NPCs you build actual relationships with, leading to truly rich, unscripted narratives that feel completely unique to your playthrough.
Okay, that sounds pretty revolutionary for gaming.
Yeah.
Which brings us to the end game, Phase 3, the convergence, this unified, persistent media layer. You call the principle continue my world.
Right. This is where it all comes together. It's kind of the vision of ambient computing realized. All these different media formats, audio, video, text, games, they all draw from the exact same memory graph, the same deep contextual understanding of you. The connection becomes seamless. Imagine a character who was the villain in a personalized short film you generated yesterday.
Yeah.
Could then appear as an NPC, maybe a quest giver, in your personalized game world today. The streams cross.
Right.
Media stops being a destination like opening a specific app. It becomes this contextual layer around you, always adapting its form. You walk away from your screen while watching something. It summarizes itself and continues as audio in your earbuds without missing a beat.
And this completely changes the game for intellectual property, doesn't it?
Totally inverts it. The most valuable IP stops being the big, established, one-to-many broadcast franchises, your Marvels, your Star Wars. Instead, the most valuable IP becomes the user's own personalized, persistent world. Their unique narrative history, the custom characters generated for them, the ongoing state of their game world. All of that becomes the core IP. And where is that IP stored and managed? Within their private, encrypted memory graph. That graph becomes the ultimate asset, the new source of real, defensible value.
Okay, we've established this AI native model is about relevance first, running on that cost per generation idea. Now let's dig into why that's so fundamentally incompatible with the incumbent's ad-based cost per scroll world.
The incompatibility is deep, it's structural, it's financial, the whole attention economy, the ad auction systems fueling Meta, TikTok, Google search ads even. It's all based on maximizing the time you spend passively scrolling or lingering in the system.
Even if I'm not actually finding what I want.
Especially them sometimes. They optimize for that passive scrolling because every extra second, every scroll is another chance to show you an ad. The relevance model is the opposite. It wants to maximize utility, deliver the answer, solve the problem efficiently. The moment you find what you need and close the app or move on.
The retention model fails, but the relevance model succeeds.
Exactly. The two business goals are fundamentally at odds. You can't optimize for both maximum time wasting and maximum efficiency simultaneously.
So who's in the most danger here? Who's most vulnerable?
Definitely the pure engagement platforms. Your Metas, your TikToks, they rely almost entirely on that cost per scroll ad engine. So they face the steepest version of the innovator's dilemma.
And their responses so far,
Yeah.
they seem kind of incremental.
They are. They're defensive, trying to protect the core business. Look at Meta's Vibes. Yeah, it's AI-generated short videos, but it's still fundamentally about content within their existing feed. It doesn't have that deep cross-app data personalization that Pulse is aiming for. It's layering AI onto the old retention structure.
Okay. And TikTok. Their personalization is famously good.
It is, but look at something like their Symphony Creative Studio. It's powerful, yes, but it's mostly a B2B tool, helping advertisers make content for TikTok more efficiently.
Right. It's not changing the core user experience towards utility.
No, it's not shifting the fundamental architecture towards that deep cross-application life context personalization. These are moves to optimize the existing model, not address the core threat from a utility-first model built on personal utility lock-in. They're trapped by the need for time on site.
What about subscription platforms then? Netflix, Spotify. They aren't directly dependent on scroll-based ads.
They're arguably better positioned, yeah, but they still face major disruption. Why? Because they still operate on a traditional one-to-many broadcast model, finite catalog, even if it's huge.
Netflix uses AI a lot for recommendations production.
Sure, they optimize search, they optimize production efficiency, but they haven't really embraced user-directed generative narrative creation, where you, the user, become a co-creator of the story. They still offer a fixed menu, essentially.
And Spotify. Their AI DJ feels kind of close to this.
It's the closest public example, probably. It curates music, offers some generative commentary, but its scope is very narrow, just the music domain. And crucially, it lacks that ability to ingest broad life context data. Your calendar, your emails, your project notes. It can pick songs based on what you listened to before or the time of day. It probably can't generate a specific workout playlist tailored to the actual triathlon goal it found in your memory graph.
Wow.
It lacks that deep, real-world context.
Okay, taking this to the extreme, what does this whole inversion mean for, say, traditional news media?
Oof. Well, the traditional idea of the front page, the curated bundle, it risks becoming obsolete, doesn't it?
How can it compete?
Exactly. How can a static front page compete with an AI agent that can, in seconds, synthesize information from 5 different news articles, cross-reference them with points from 3 of your work emails, maybe check them against a meeting on your calendar, and then deliver a 1-minute, prioritized, personalized briefing just for you?
The value shifts completely.
It shifts away from packaging, layout, editorial selection, the things news orgs currently control and monetize, towards the underlying raw reporting, the data itself. News organizations might be forced to pivot, become more like licensed data providers, feeding their high-quality reporting into these synthesis engines that assemble the personalized briefings for end users.
So they become data pipes into the machine rather than the primary distributors.
That seems like a potential and maybe painful outcome for many.
Okay, let's talk about the elephant in the room. The second you say, give us access to your email and calendar to get this high utility, you run headfirst into massive privacy and trust barriers, this whole alignment challenge. If we accept the premise that high utility needs that sensitive data, what are the non-negotiable architectural solutions?
Yeah, privacy can't be an afterthought here. It has to be baked in from the start, architecturally. And because that high utility likely demands access to really sensitive streams, email, calendar, maybe even health data down the line, the most viable technical solution seems to be on-device processing, leveraging those increasingly powerful mobile NPUs we talked about.
Keeping the data local as much as possible.
As much as physically possible. Keep the sensitive, high-signal stuff local, encrypted on the user's device. Avoid transmitting raw, identifiable personal data to central servers whenever you can. That mitigates the worst privacy risks and the potential liability from massive data breaches.
And how does the regulatory environment, thinking particularly about Europe with GDPR and the AI Act, kind of force this? Does regulation make local processing not just a good idea, but almost a necessity?
It absolutely pushes things strongly in that direction. These regulations make large-scale, centralized processing of sensitive personal data incredibly complex and legally risky, especially across borders. GDPR demands a strict legal basis for any personal data processing, transmitting raw email content or calendar details globally. That's a regulatory minefield. Then you have the EU AI Act. It requires clear labeling of AI-generated content. But more importantly, systems that perform intense individual profiling, which this memory graph absolutely does, are likely to be classified as high risk.
And high risk means?
It means triggering a whole load of extra compliance burdens. Mandatory audits, stricter transparency, higher potential liability if things go wrong. Trying to manage that centrally across dozens of jurisdictions with slightly different interpretations, it's a nightmare.
Okay, I see.
And you also have things like the Digital Services Act, DSA, demanding transparency about how recommender systems rank content. Putting it all together, this complex regulatory web means mastering on-device AI, keeping that personalization engine close to the user. It's not just about speed or efficiency. It's probably the only practical, compliant path forward to build the kind of deep user trust needed for people to ever grant access to this level of personal data.
Okay, so on-device helps with privacy. But what about the intellectual risk? The big worry with perfect personalization is creating the ultimate echo chamber.
Right.
A world where you only ever see things that confirm your existing biases, you never encounter novelty or dissent or challenging ideas.
That's a huge risk, perhaps the most significant long-term alignment challenge for this kind of system. If it's optimized purely for relevance based on your past behavior and stated preferences.
It could just feed you more and more of the same,
Right.
leading to intellectual, maybe even cultural isolation.
Exactly. The system can't just be a passive, perfect mirror. That leads to stagnation, calcification of views. It must be designed with really robust, user-controllable settings, tunable controls.
What kind of controls?
Users need to be able to explicitly adjust parameters. Imagine like a dial on a dashboard for serendipity or diversity of opinion or intellectual challenge.
So if I crank up my intellectual challenge dial,
Mm.
the system would deliberately inject opposing viewpoints, or maybe articles from sources I don't normally read, even if they don't perfectly match my relevance score.
Precisely. It would intentionally introduce novelty, maybe even friction, into the feed based on the user's explicit setting. That gives the user agency over their own intellectual environment. It allows you to decide how much echo chamber versus how much external stimulus you want. That kind of transparency and user control is vital to counteract the isolating risks of hyper-personalization while still getting the benefits of the utility that the memory graph provides. It's a tricky balance.
Okay, wrapping this up. Given this relevance-first model doesn't really work with pure advertising,
Yeah.
what's the realistic monetization strategy? How do you pay for the massive compute needed for all this generation?
Yeah, it really demands a hybrid approach, heavily leaning towards direct user payment. It has to reflect that high cost per generation. The most likely structure seems to be a pretty robust freemium plus pro subscription model. The basic proactive text feed, maybe that's free to get people hooked on the utility.
But the really advanced stuff costs.
Exactly. The full multimodal morning show, the really deep agentic follow-ups, the personalization based on integrating email and calendar, that kind of high utility, high compute stuff almost certainly has to sit behind a pro subscription tier.
And what about generating those really compute-heavy things, like the personalized games or the long-form custom shows? That sounds expensive per user.
It is, and that probably points towards a consumption-based model layered on top. Users might need to buy, say, media packs or generation credits specifically for that kind of thing.
Like paying per episode generated or per hour of gameplay in a persistent world.
Something like that. It directly aligns the user's cost with the computational resources being used. And then finally, there's probably a source licensing revenue stream.
Where content providers pay to be included.
Right. News organizations, academic journals, maybe specialized data providers, they might pay to ensure their content is reliably ingested, indexed, and potentially prioritized by the synthesis engine when it's relevant for those valuable paid user briefings.
Okay, so multiple streams, but mostly direct user payment. Let's just reiterate then the core competitive moat here. It's not about having the most users initially or the biggest ad network. It really comes down to the memory graph lock-in.
That's the crux of it. That's the ultimate strategic asset. The trust you build, the utility you deliver, the sheer depth of historical context embedded in that user's personal model. It creates an informational switching cost that is incredibly hard for competitors to overcome.
Because any new service starts from zero. It knows nothing about me.
Exactly. It's instantly less useful. The network effect here accrues to the individual based on the depth and richness of their own history within the system. And the timeline suggested, we're looking at maybe years 3 to 5 from now, where the structural decline of the old legacy social platforms could become really visible as the most valuable, utility-seeking users start migrating towards these relevance-driven systems.
So thinking 5 years out, the company, or maybe companies, that succeed in building the most comprehensive and crucially the most trusted memory graph, they essentially become the user's primary agentic OS, orchestrating their digital life work, entertainment, information.
That seems to be the strategic prize, yes. It's a level of integration and influence only really held by the core operating system vendors like Apple or Microsoft.
Which leaves us with a pretty profound final thought for you, the listener. If an AI system is potentially directing your news, shaping your entertainment, maybe even nudging your long-term goals, all based on accessing your deepest personal data, what level of transparency, what guarantees of user control must that system provide to truly earn the right to wield that kind of power over your digital existence?
Thanks for listening to Mythos AI. Stay tuned for more concise insights. And remember to hit the like button and subscribe for future episodes.